maitre d'. But don't let the name fool you, folks. I'm about as French as a fry. I'm a Boston guy. And speaking of Boston guys, I am VIP here, and this is our captain, Captain Sarah. Let's hear it for her. She's going to take us around the city safely, one it by land, two it by sea. Quack, quack makes three. So I am VIP here, very important guy around here. Just ask me. I once sat a whole bunch of guys. They were kind of scraggly looking. They rolled into the restaurant. It was very busy. They said, hey, we want a table. I said, dream on. Turned out they were Aerosmith. I said, walk this way. Yeah, Steven Tyler and the whole gang showed up. So I am VIP here, the legendary maitre d'. You may be wondering, VIP here, what's the story? What are you doing on a duck? Shouldn't you be working in a restaurant serving a duck? Well, suffice to say, ladies and gentlemen, beware when you flambe. An unfortunate flambeing incident left my customer smoldering, left my boss hot under the collar, and left me, the VIP here, extinguished. But as they say in Italy, folks, say la vie. And if you can't stand the heat, stay out of the kitchen, and the dining room for that matter. So I am VIP here, and we're going to go around the city. We're going to enjoy the 3 F's of Boston. The freedom, the firsts, and the fun. Now the freedom is the easy one. The American Revolution was here in Boston, or it got started here in Boston, gave us our independence. The firsts, we got the first jelly bean, the first chocolate factory, the first Boston cream pie, the first canned coffee, and of course the first case of indigestion, ladies and gentlemen, leading to the use of Tums for the very first time. And of course fun. What could be more fun than tooling about town on a replica World War II amphibious vehicle known as Arborway Alex. And yes, I did say amphibious, and you know what that means, right? We're going in the water. And we're going to quack, quack at strangers. When I say check, please, you say quack, quack. Let's give that a taste test. You ready? Check, please. Nicely done. Best group of the day. Let's hear it for yourselves, ladies and gentlemen. Excuse me, do I have something on my lip? Not anymore, huh? That's the best part of not being a maitre d'. I don't have to wear that cheesy mustache. So here on your left-hand side, that's the Christian Science building. That is the first internationally known religion founded by a woman, Mary Baker Eddy, 1879. Here to your left, you might make out the original church. I'm sorry it goes by quickly. The majority of the church was built in 1906. Within that building is the Maparium. The Maparium is a 3-story stained glass globe. You can walk right through the middle. Check it out, it's really interesting, the Maparium. And there on your left, that's the dome there. That's the dome of the Christian Science building. So welcome to the Boston Duck Tours. Welcome to Boston. We're heading up to Boylston Street. Boylston Street is the final 0.2 miles of the Boston Marathon. Do we have anybody on board who's run the Boston Marathon or any marathon on board? No? You've run a marathon? Which one? Chicago. And you have as well?
New York, Chicago, and Berlin.
Wow. New York, Chicago, and Berlin, and New York as well. Let's hear it for the marathon. You know, I've been thinking about running the Boston Marathon for close to 50 years now. And I believe one day I just might do it. So we're coming up to the Boston Marathon. We just completed our 127th running of the Boston Marathon. The first marathon was run in 1897. At that time, only 15 people participated. The reason is only 15 because you had to be a man, first of all. Boo! Secondly, you had to have competed in the previous year's Olympics. And for that reason, in 1897, we only had 15 participants. This past April 15th, I believe it was, 2023, we had over 30,000 runners, and that was our 127th Boston Marathon. So we're heading on up to Boylston Street, and as we continue up on your left, that is Interstate 90. Anybody here from Seattle? Yeah, you're from Seattle? If we make a left on Interstate 90, we can drive you home. It goes all the way to Interstate 90. Now, you might have heard Go West, Young Man. I've been told get lost, old man, but never go west, young man. Now, here on your left is Interstate 90 that runs to Seattle. Just beyond it, as we move forward to the left of the white building here, that is Berklee College. Now, people go to Berklee College to become musicians, to become composers, vocalists, and to get into the production of music business. That's the Berklee College. Now, we're very fortunate here in Boston because we benefit greatly from the Berklee College. If you go out and about in the city to some of the pubs and restaurants, you'll see a lot of young people playing music. and they're all très bien. As a matter of fact, one of my favorites is here on Boylston Street, just across Mass Ave. You go across Mass Ave, on your left you'll see a restaurant pub called the Bebop. Go to the Bebop because the food is tremendous and the music's even better. Friday nights at 7, Irish Sashimi. 13 musicians up on stage in a small little area. Blues, rock, country, jazz, you name it, they play it at the Bebop. Let's hear it for the Bebop. Check, please. Nicely done. A couple of serious quacks right here, folks. So we're going to make a right on to Boylston Street when we do this beautiful brown building in front of us. At one time, this half was the Boston Police Department. They moved out. It became Boston Architectural College. To the right of it is the oldest fire department here in Boston, or the oldest fire house, 1885. Let's give these guys a quack quack. Check, please. Yep, 1885, that was built. That's Henry Hobson Richardson, known as Richardsonian Romanesque architectural style. There was over 4,000 calls a year, fires, emergencies, car wrecks, and the occasional cat in the tree. Here on your right hand side, believe it or not, you don't have to fly to go to Italy, ladies and gentlemen. Italy took over 1 acre of space in that building. Imagine that, 1 acre. They have cheese shop, butcher shop, wine shop, restaurants, you name it, they got it all. Right inside that big old building known as the Prudential Tower, and that is known as Italy. We started at the Prudential Tower on the other side, so we basically made a U-turn. So here we are on the lovely Boylston Street. We're coming up to the finish line of the Boston Marathon. When we approach the finish line, I'll give you a little bit of a heads up. You can look out to your right and left, you'll see the finish line, and I might even say 1, 2, 3, hip hip, and we can all say hooray. Then when you go home, you can tell your friends with plausible deniability, hey, I crossed the finish line of the Boston Marathon. You never said you ran it, simply said you crossed the line. And that is not the only time we'll cross the line on this tour today, ladies and gentlemen. We get a little bit salty here. VIP here. Now, who likes Gordon Ramsay? Anybody? Yeah, Gordon Ramsay's a great guy. Could have been a football player, soccer. Yeah, he's a great restaurateur. I've been there. VIP has been there. Now, a little bit of, sad news here on our left-hand side. This is the memorial to the 4 people killed when the bombs were detonated at the Boston Marathon. Those 4 spires memorialized the 4 people. That was in 2013. There will be another one coming up on our left as well, 4 spires. Now, like I say, I've thought about running the Boston Marathon. What I normally do is sit right here in this Irish pub and contemplate the marathon as the people run on by. It's much easier to sit there having a couple of cold beers than it is to run 26.2 miles, am I right? And then walking funny afterwards. Yeah, I walked the Boston Marathon. I got shin splints. Now, that was tough. Something very exciting here on our left. That's the only Dunkin' Donuts in Boston. What, you've seen others? 131 of them, I believe, here in Boston, ladies and gentlemen. That's a joke we can use on the tour 30, 40 times. Boston Police, ladies and gentlemen. Fire department on our left. On our right-hand side is the Boston Public Library, the oldest public lending library in the country. This portion of the library was built in 1971. Now get ready on 3. We're going to cross the finish line. 1, 2, 3. Hip, hip. Hooray! Very nicely done. You guys didn't even break a sweat. So here on the right is the front half of the Boston Public Library, built in 1895, designed by Charles McKim. On our left-hand side is the oldest congregation of Boston, 1669. That building was built in 1875. That's the Old South Church. Here is the Copley Square, named after the gentleman whose statue, that's John Singleton Copley, famous portraitist. His wife was loyal to the crown. So just before the Revolution, him and his wife took off for London, never to come back to Boston. John Singleton Copley. Yep. Here on the right-hand side, this wonderful building is the Trinity Church. There's Philip Brooks, the original minister in that statue. A little difficult to see with this double-decker bus. There it is off to your right again. That's Philip Brooks. He was the minister here from 1869 to 1891. Bit of a rock star minister. He was a homilist at one of Abraham Lincoln's funerals after he was assassinated. He was only 29 years old at the time, so that was quite an honor. that speaks to how important and how, let's see, how impressed, I guess, people were by him. That's Phillips Brooks. He was the minister of this beautiful Trinity Church. The Trinity Church was built in 1877, known as Richardsonian Romanesque architectural style, open to the public. Get back and take a tour if you can. On this site is where MIT, Mass Institute of Technology, started. Now you know what MIT really stands for, right? Millionaires in Training. But they're going to change it to BIT, Billionaires in Training. That's where you go to learn to play blackjack. Now on your left, that brown building to our left, that is the beautiful, at one time, that was the Museum of Natural History. That moved over to Cambridge and became the Museum of Science. There were two buildings that looked just like that building. Those two buildings were next door, and those two buildings comprised MIT, Mass Institute of Technology. Check, please. Mr. Quack right here, ladies and gentlemen. Guy's a serious duck. Now, as we go through the intersection, if you look left, some of us can see it now. That is the tallest steeple in Boston. That is the Church of the Covenant, and that steeple is 241 feet tall. I found that steeple to be very inspiring. That's a church you can visit as well. So that's the Church of the Covenant, tallest steeple, 241 feet tall. Back there was the Trinity Church, 1877, and beyond that on the right was the Old South Church, 1875. Here on your left is the first church in the Back Bay. That is the Arlington Street Church, 1861. If you look at those beautiful windows, they are known as Tiffany opalescent stained glass windows, designed by Louis Comfort Tiffany. There's 16 windows in the church. All 16 have one theme. That theme is the life of Jesus. And that church is open to the public. Here on your left is William Ellery Channing. He was the original minister. He's on the outside looking in because he died in 1842. That church was built in 1861. All the churches on the Back Bay, or most of them, started on the original Shawmut Peninsula. The original Shawmut Peninsula is what Boston originally looked like. It was very small, about 1.5 miles square, about the size of Central Park. In 1625, William Blackstone, having recently arrived from England, with the okay of the local indigenous tribe, the Massachusetts, settled here on the Shawmut Peninsula. The word Shawmut is an indigenous word for living water. There was an abundance of fresh water. So William Blackstone settled on the Shawmut Peninsula, 1625. 5 years later, the Puritans showed up. He invited them to live on the Shawmut Peninsula with him. John Winthrop and about 150 other Puritans. That was 1630. After 4 years, William Blackstone could not take living with the Puritans any longer. They were trying to get him to convert to Puritanism. He chose not to, so he left the Shawmut Peninsula, went down to Rhode Island. The Puritans stayed and renamed it Boston. So that is a brief telling of the original settlers of the Shawmut Peninsula. Because prior to that, the indigenous people did not live on the Shawmut Peninsula. They would hunt there, they would fish there, but they did not live there. So on your left is the Public Garden, 1837. Here on your right is the Boston Common, 1634. Why is there 200 years between the two parks? Well, up until 1837, what we were traveling on was the Charles River. So if you look at the Shawmut Peninsula, everything running to the left was the Charles River. How did we fill it in? There were 3 hills on the Shawmut Peninsula. We had Mount Vernon, we had Pemberton Hill, we had Beacon Hill. Wolfgang Duck, ladies and gentlemen, most famous chef in Boston. Check, please. He's got a wonderful recipe for duck. I believe it's duck l'orange. So Shawmut Peninsula, originally one time, this was the Charles River. We took the 3 hills, we knocked the land over into the waterway, and we gave it buildable land. Here on your left, where all the people are gathered, you see it over there on the left? That is the statue, Make Way for Duckling. Anybody ever hear of Make Way for Duckling? That is a children's book written by Robert McCluskey in 1941, telling the story of Mrs. Mallard and her 8 ducklings, Jack, Jack, Black, Check, please. Just under the wire, ladies and gentlemen. We're not supposed to quack on Beacon Hill. You know why? The quack is intolerant. Yeah, they can't take blood is quacking. Here on your left is where in 1625 William Blackston had his cottage. Right on that site, William Blackston, the original settler of Boston, had his cottage right there. On the right-hand side, I believe it's Haitian Independence Day or something. So they're celebrating, so always a good reason to celebrate, right? So we're coming to the top. When you get up to the top of the hill, if you look to the left, you're going to see the State House. Now again, there were three hills. Mount Vernon, Pemberton Hill, and in the middle was Beacon Hill. Mount Vernon was knocked over, pushed into the water to create the public garden. Pemberton Hill, before us, was knocked down and pushed into the old mill pond to create land where the Boston Garden now sits. Beacon Hill, 2/3 of it remains. We chopped off the top 1/3 and we put our State House on top of it. So that is the story of how we made land here in Boston. 2,400 acres of made land. So here on your left is the State House, completed in 1797. There's our 35th president, John Fitzgerald Kennedy. Behind him is Anne Hutchinson. Anne Hutchinson had the audacity as a woman to have thoughts of her own. For that reason, she was banished by the Puritans from the colony. That was Anne Hutchinson. Here on the right is the Robert Gould Shaw Memorial to the 54th Regiment. That is an all-volunteer regiment that fought in the Civil War, all-black volunteer regiment. That is the beginning of the Black Heritage Trail as well. Now on your left, what's that lady doing? Is she she's text messaging again. That's Mary Dyer. She was a Quaker, a witness for religious freedom. She was hanged on the Boston Common in 1660 for being a Quaker. The Puritans were Quaker intolerant. She should have listened to her friends who told her, Mary, don't hang around. She didn't listen. Here on the right, 122 Bowdoin, check it out. That's where John F. Kennedy established an address in 1946 so he could run for Congress from this district. That address, 122 Bowdoin, was on his license in his pocket in November 1963 in Dallas. John F. Kennedy. Here on your left, that's St. John the Evangelist Church, completed in 1831. In that church was the original preacher, Lyman Beecher. His daughter, Harriet Beecher Stowe, wrote the book, Uncle Tom's Cabin, which talked about the hypocrisy and the cruelty of slavery. As a matter of fact, when Abraham Lincoln visited Boston, he met with Harriet Beecher Stowe, and he said to her, so you're the little lady who wrote the book that led to this big war, the Civil War. So that's Harriet Beecher Stowe. So here on Beacon Hill is the Black Heritage Trail. Also on Beacon Hill are stops on the Underground Railroad. The Underground Railroad were a series of safe havens from the South leading north to Canada, where people escaping slavery in the South knew if they could get to one of these stops on the Underground Railroad, they could at the very least get a good night's sleep, possibly some food, before continuing on their journey north. One such home that is still there today was owned by Lewis Hayden. So that is a wonderful place to visit, Beacon Hill, and that is where you'll find the Black Heritage Trail. That is the first planned neighborhood in Boston because they knocked down Mount Vernon and they were able to create streets east, west, north, south. Here on your left, that's the Old West Church that was built in 1806. That was a stop on the Underground Railroad, and that is where John F. Kennedy cast his vote in the 1960 presidential election, presumably for himself. And you know the old motto here in Boston, vote early and vote often, ladies and gentlemen. Now on that site where the Old West Church is, in 1737, there was a wooden structure built there. And that wooden structure housed British troops during the occupation of Boston, 1768. That's when the British, getting a little tired of the colonists here in the New World, decided to send over troops to occupy the city. And that helped lead to the Boston Massacre on March 5th of 1770, which led to the Boston Tea Party, December 16th, 1773. And that, of course, led to the Battle of Lexington and Concord, the shot heard around the world, April 18th of 1775, culminating with the battle at Bunker Hill on June 17th, 1775. And then, of course, after the Battle of Bunker Hill was the evacuation of Boston when the British left Boston. Now, the British were exiting out of Boston through Boston Harbor. George Washington struck a deal. That was March 17, 1776. He said, if you don't burn down the city of Boston, we won't fire at you from those cannons we have at Dorchester Heights. Now, where do we get the cannons? General Knox went up to Fort Ticonderoga, New York, brought back those cannons. We installed them at Dorchester Heights, and we struck a deal. You don't burn down Boston, we won't blow you out of the water. That was a deal the English accepted. So currently we are in the West End of Boston, once known as the Old West End. This was a thriving working class neighborhood where over 24 languages were spoken. It was a true melting pot. All race, creed, or color were welcome here. But in 1960, they had urban redevelopment. They came in and they knocked down all the tenement buildings except that one. That is the last remaining tenement building in the West End neighborhood that at one time was known as the greatest neighborhood this side of heaven. So you cannot stand in the way of progress. You cannot fight. Bunker Hill Monument. The cables coming down are meant to look like the riggings on the USS Constitution. That is the oldest commissioned warship in the world. It was built in 1797 and it is over in Charlestown. The bridge is up, folks, so we got a little time to kill here. So we have a couple of drawbridges that go over the Charles River. And when boats need to come or go, it is necessary to raise the bridge. And that is what they've done now. So again, the Bunker Hill Monument, that is a monument to a battle that the rebels actually lost, which was fought on June 17, 1775. Here on your right-hand side, of course, is the beautiful Charles River. And if you look off to your right, you'll see another one of our ducks. And that's precisely what we're going to look like shortly. Now, who wants to go in the water today? Anybody? For those of you who don't want to go in the water, simply jump out the window. That's a joke. Please don't do that. I get in trouble if you do. This is an amphibious vehicle. We are going to go into the water. Now, the Charles River is 80 miles from Hopkinton to Boston. The Boston Marathon is 26.2 miles from Hopkinton to Boston. Why is the Charles River so much longer? Well, the Charles River winds its way through 27 cities and towns on its way to Boston. As a matter of fact, we talked about Shawmut Peninsula. The word Shawmut meant living water. There was an abundance of fresh water. It was a great place to settle. The original indigenous name of the Charles River is Quinobi-Quin, and Quinobi-Quin means in turns. So it was a meandering river. It got its name changed from Quinobi-Quin to Charles in 1616. In 1614, King James I of England sent over John Smith to the New World. He asked John Smith to draw him a map. When he went back with that map, everything was labeled with the original indigenous names, including the Charles River, known as Quinobi-Quin. King James took the map, gave it to his young son Charles, 15 years old, and said, Charles, would you like to name anything on the map after yourself? Young Charles at 15 chose the river. So since 1616, Quinobi-Quin has now become the Charles River. And on your left-hand side, if you look at this structure here, that's known as a viaduct. Does anybody know what a viaduct is? A viaduct carries people. As a matter of fact, you might see our Green Line train come across the bridge. So that is a viaduct. People move over it. Not to be confused, of course, with an aqueduct, which is carrying water. Which, of course, is not to be confused with a Boston duck, which is carrying us. Check, please. Never had a lesson, these guys. Now, what are you, part of a band? The Beatles, ladies and gentlemen. The Duckles. There you go, the Ducks. Very good. I'll have to give you a job here doing tours. So that is the Charles River, and shortly we're going to be on the water. Now, currently we're traveling on Arbor Way Alex. We have 28 ducks in our fleet. Now, when this company began in 1994, we had 4 ducks that were actual World War II duck vehicles. Eventually, we had 10. After the year 2000, we phased out the original surplus ducks and we made an upgraded model. And they were made in Michigan, and now we have 28 in our fleet. Now, you may not know this, but here in Boston, we have won some championships in the past. As a matter of fact, we had 12 championships in 20 years. When we win a championship here in Boston, we celebrate them on the duck vehicles. It's called a duck parade. So when we have a team that looks like they might win a championship, the rallying cry is, cue the ducks, get the ducks ready. Now, Sarah, have she's done 3 parades. Now, which Red Sox parade did you do? 2013? 2017. So she's done 3 championship parades. Now, when they go through the city of Boston, we have all the team players, their friends and family, as well as the staff of the team. And when they tool around Boston, I don't know, 1.5 million people line the streets of Boston. And we have a monstrous parade. Yeah. You've never done it for me, ladies and gentlemen. What can I say? I only burned down 1 restaurant. VIP here, the legendary Maitre D. Check, please. All right, here we are. We're finally moving once again. We have this gentleman to our left. He's a normal, courteous driver here in Boston. So as we take this corner, you'll look down the Charles River and you'll see the Bunker Hill Monument. There it is, 221 feet tall. Here on your left-hand side is the waterway we're going to cross to get to the Charles River. Here on your left is the Museum of Science. And this poor T-Rex, he can't get in the museum. He can't reach his ticket. It's in his pocket. Check it out, the Burger King. Check, please. So the Museum of Science, you can get a discounted admission with your duck tour ticket. Within the Museum of Science, we have underneath that dome the Theater of Electricity. That's where they simulate lightning strikes. Very shocking. Also in that building, we have the Muga Omni Theater. That's where they're currently playing a movie known as A Trip to Mars. It's out of this world. So that is the Museum of Science, and you can also get a duck tour there. So we're going to make a right-hand turn. That's going to bring us onto the campus of Education First. Education First is a series of schools founded by Bernal Hult. Now that's a silver lining to Bernal Hult's story, because he's a young man living in Sweden. He could not pick up the language English. So when he graduated high school, he took a job that had him moved over to England. Shortly after his arrival in England, within a couple of months, he could speak English. He had an epiphany. If I could immerse people in a language, they could learn to speak that language. And the silver lining is Bernal Hult suffered from dyslexia. So when he got to England and he learned how to speak the language, thus ended his frustrating life unable to learn the language, he became a self-made billionaire. So that's Bernal Hult. We're going to make a right, and this is his series of schools known as Education First. But on this tour, education is second. Fun is first. Check, please. I'm going to know what I'd do without these guys. I'd be talking to myself, no one would be quacking. Now, when we make this right-hand turn, you're going to see a piece of the Berlin Wall. This rectangular piece of concrete, that is a piece of the Berlin Wall. The Berlin Wall was a barrier between East and West Berlin that went up after World War II. It came down in 1989. That piece of the Berlin Wall was a gift for Bernal Hult, the founder of the school, from his employees. And it was a very appropriate gift because his motto is breaking down barriers to education, language, and culture. And here on the right is their headquarters, meant to look like a waterfall cascading down as education would. Now, who brought a skateboard today? You did, miss? You brought your skateboard? Excellent. Because here on the right is the biggest skateboard park in the Lynchfield. That is a great place to have some fun and maybe break a leg. You got friends out here? Yeah. Hey, let's give her a quack quack. You ready? That's a 21 Dutch salute. So now get ready. We're going to go into the water, ladies and gentlemen. Please remain seated. Keep your arms, your legs, your hands, your head inside the vehicle. If necessary, red tags, 90 pounds or less. Yellow tags are 90 pounds or more, life preserving. If necessary to evacuate the vehicle, simply go out the window like this. Cannonball. If someone goes in the water, we have life preserver here and here. You chuck it like a frisbee. So get ready, folks, on 3. 1, 2, 3. Hold on, guys. Check, please. Nobody hits the water like she does. Take my word for it. That was beautiful. Let's hear it for our captain. And if you look on your left, you'll see how happy you are. Yep, there you are. Drink this stuff like water. It is water, yeah. So can everybody hear me okay in the back? Thank you very much. So here we are now on the Charles River, once known as Quinobie Quin. Got its name changed to the Charles River in 1616. I feel like I'm on The Price is Right. Charles River at one time, believe it or not, was very, very polluted because here on the right-hand side, East Cambridge was at one time home to factories and refineries. They had a lot of factories, they had a lot of refineries, but they did not have a lot of oversight. So the river became polluted. But through the efforts of the Charles River Watershed Association, the Environmental Protection Agency, the Department of Conservation and Recreation, and through the support of the Boston Duck Tours, we now have the cleanest urban riverway in the country, ladies and gentlemen. Let's hear it for the cleanest urban riverway. So clean, in fact, that soon they're going to have public swimming here, but not today. So please don't jump in the water. Now, does it look clean to you? It looks a little brown, right? Now, people often ask, VIP here, what's the story? The water looks brown. Well, I'll tell you, it's not unusual in New England for the water in the rivers to look brown because the vegetation on the sides, when it falls in the water, it gives off a tannic acid. And that turns the water a slight hue of brown, much like a tea bag would in a cup of hot water. Has anybody here had tea? Yeah? Guess what we do with tea? We dumped it in the harbor. Guess where the harbor is? Right behind us. Now the harbor goes up and down with the tides. So therefore, the Charles River is known as a tidal river because it is also affected by the tides. For that reason, we installed a dam and lock system. This is the original dam and lock system built in 1908. It was necessary to regulate the level of the water in this lock to allow boats to travel. Look left and right. That is known as a lock. There's one there, there's one to the front. Believe it or not, if necessary, we could shut both doors. That would shut off this portion of the Charles River, and then we could either pump water in or pump water out to regulate the level, which would allow for boats and watercraft to go to the harbor or come back to the river. Now, we replaced this system in 1978, which was very lucky because shortly after we replaced this system with a much bigger system, we had the blizzard of '78. And here on your left and right, these are the final two of the lock. So imagine a door coming from there across on this side and that. It would shut off that portion, and then we could raise or lower the water. Now again, 1978, we had the blizzard of '78. Fortunately, we changed that system for a much bigger one. Because in '78, we had the blizzard of '78, we had so much snow, the VIP had to miss 2 weeks of school. Brought a tear to my eye when I had to go back to school. But had we not changed out that dam, all of Back Bay would have been flooded. Catastrophe avoided. All right, guess what, folks? This is where our captain likes to take a break. Therefore, we need people to drive the duck. Technically, what it is a photo opportunity. Is there anybody on board that would like to take a seat and drive the duck? None of you folks, quacks, don't want to drive? You don't have to. You want to drive? All right, we got a man here. Syracuse, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, you bring your camera, I'll take a photo. Make yourself at home. Thank you very much. Now remember, those of you who choose to drive, no popping wheelies, no ripping donuts, no banging U-turns, and watch out for the icebergs, because my heart will go on. Right over here, my good man. Over here, buddy. Yep, photo opportunity. Perfect. Is that all from your family? Anybody else coming up? Yeah, why not? All right, but I have to ask you to move along. But before you go, don't forget your sticker. All right, buddy, hop in the seat and take it away. On screen, look at me. It's not how you feel, it's how you look, and you look marvelous. Perfect. All right, bud. Now, who else wants to drive? I believe we got some others, yeah? All right, my good man. Thank you very much. I'm going to let you bring the camera back too, okay? We'll start in the front, we'll work our way back. You change your mind? Let's do this. I knew this guy was a quack. You want to drive as well? Good. All right, so look at me. Professional. Wonderful. All right, if we move quickly, we'll get everybody. Watch your step coming down. That's for you, sir. All righty then. Look who's next, ladies and gentlemen. Look who's next. Watch your step. Yep, climb right into the seat. Make yourself at home. Put your hands on the steering wheel, and I'll get a lovely picture. Perfect. You did a wonderful job. Thus, you deserve a sticker. Watch. Oop, I'll get you another. There you go. Thank you. All right, do we have anybody? You want to come up? Yep, we'll get you. Hurry. Make yourself at home. If you got a camera, bring it up. I'll take a picture. Thank you very much. Oh, you look like you've done this before. Very nice. Check, please. Perfect. Indigenous to the Charles River, ducks. Here you go. Now, is there someone else coming up that I should hold on to this camera for? All right, come on up, miss. We'll get to you next, sir. Come on up. Yep. You're welcome. Over here, look at me. Hey. You're like a boss. Not a captain, but a boss. Here you go. Perfecto. Here you go, Leo. My pleasure. Thank you very much. Thank you. On your right-hand side is Cambridge, founded in 1630 by the Puritans. 1636, they opened up a college. In 1638, they renamed that college Harvard after John Harvard, a wealthy minister who left half his wealth and all his books to that university. Here you go, miss. Perfect. Thank you very much. There's your sticker. Watch your step, okay? If you look off to your left, you'll see the gold dome of the State House. Come on up, my good man. Now, the State House, again, was completed in 1797. So if you look to your left, there's 400 years of architecture. Just keep your hands on the wheel. Yep, you're doing fine. Look at me, bud. You're a natural. You're perfect. Perfect. Thank you very much. All right, that's it for now. When we go underneath the bridge and come back, we'll get whoever else. Sir, I forgot your sticker, though. Thank you very much. So again, to the left, you're just now making out the gold dome. That is 1797. The low-level bricks are from the 1800s. The first high-rises are the 1900s. The glass high-rises, 2000 and beyond. Technically 400 years of architecture right in one view. Now this beautiful bridge, those are meant to look like Viking longboats. People theorize that those longboats or the Vikings traveled up and down the Charles River long before the Europeans or the rest of the Europeans did. And of course this beautiful bridge, Henry Wadsworth Longfellow Bridge, was named after Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. This bridge was built in 1908. It replaced the bridge that had been built in 1854, which replaced the bridge that had been built in 1793. Off to your right, MIT, there's their business school. The one with the golf ball, that's their science building. Straight to the back, that zigzag building, that is Boston University, BU, ladies and gentlemen. That is their science building. And of course, just over those sailboats, you can make out the Citgo sign. That Citgo sign is in Kenmore Square. That is where Fenway Park is. That's where the Red Sox play baseball. And here to your right, you see the three tallest buildings. The one to the far right is 1 Dalton Street. We passed that on the tour. The second tallest building is the Prudential Tower. That is where our tour began. And this tallest building in Boston, that is the John Hancock Tower. Believe it or not, that building has 10,344 panes of glass. You know what the guy who cleans them said? Oh my God, what a pain. It's true, I heard him. Here on the right, that looks like a big cantaloupe. That is actually the hat shell, that rounded ball that looks like a basketball. That is where they had the Boston Pops concert on July 4th. And that brick steeple right there, that is the Church of the Advent. From that steeple, all the way to the Citgo sign, Kenmore Square, that is made land. That is a waterway that was filled in to create made land. On our right-hand side, that little sailing school right there, that is known as Community Boating, founded in 1941. We at the Boston Duck Tours support community boating through our Quack, Quack, Give Back. Check, please. Give back. Do we have anybody else who didn't get to drive that wants to? Anybody? You want to drive? No? Anybody else want to sit in the duck? Come on. You don't have to. Sure? All right, so everybody who wanted to drive has driven. No one else would like to. All right, everybody, let's cheer for our drivers today. Thank you very much. You can see those Viking longboats again very nicely. The one on the left has the sail of Boston. The one on the right has the sail of Cambridge. So you got Cambridge to the left of me, Boston to the right. Here I am, duck on the river with you. On your right hand side, that is the Massachusetts Eye and Ear Infirmary. Eye and Ear. It is a site for sore eyes, sore ears, sore nose, and sore throat. So that is part of the Mass General Hospital. Mass General was founded in 1811. Mass General was the first hospital to ever reattach a limb. You know what the doctor said? Let's give that kid a hand. I know, it's lame, right? Not so bad. Believe me, I got plenty that are worse. Here on the right is something important. These are kayakers, indigenous to the Charles River. Check, please. Nice. This guy takes no prisoners when he quacks. He's like Jerry Lee Lewis. Whole lot of quacking going on. Never had a lesson, ladies and gentlemen. Self-taught. On your right-hand side, you notice all these big rocks. If you look at these rocks, you'll know that some of them have architectural styling. As a matter of fact, you may see archways within the rocks here. Here's one now on our right. All these rocks came from that neighborhood, the West End. When they knocked down those buildings, they took the debris and they laid them here alongside the Charles River to prevent erosion. Erosion, of course, is when the water bangs up against the land and tries to reclaim. These rocks are known as riprap, and that's an actual word. Not riff-raff. This guy's riff-raff. These are riprap. So do we got anybody celebrating a birthday on board today? Any birthdays? No birthdays? Any anniversaries? Anybody want to get married? She is a captain. Why not, right? She's a captain, I'm a lawyer. She'll handle the wedding and I'll take care of the rest. I'm not a lawyer, I'm a quack, ladies and gentlemen. There's a difference. Over here on your left, you see that brick building with the green awnings? Just beyond that building, the larger gray building, that is where the Charles River used to extend over to. The Charles River was 4 times wider. Where that gray building is, that is where the British landed on the night of April 18, 1775. Now, why did the British cross the water and land over there? They wanted to march up to Lexington and Concord. They wanted to apprehend Sam Adams and John Hancock. They were wanted for treason for having incited the Boston Tea Party on December 16th of 1773. So on the night of April 18, 1775, the British were going to head up to Lexington and Concord. Fortunately, the rebels had a spy network. We knew the British were heading up to Lexington, but we did not know, will they go by land or will they cross the water? 1, if by land, 2, if by sea. So our spy network figured out they were going to cross the Charles River. They crossed the water, they landed right over there. Unfortunately, Paul Revere had put 2 lanterns in the steeple of the North Church. 2, if by sea. That was a signal for the rest of the rebel riders to get on their horses. Head on up to Lexington and Concord. Let the rebels know the British are coming. Sam Adams, John Hancock go to Philly. Second Continental Congress. Rebels, hide the weapons. By the time the British arrived at 5 in the morning, Sam Adams and John Hancock were gone. The weapons were hidden. So, we're going to blow a horn here shortly. When we do, I'll finish that story. Thank you very much. So, April 18, 1775, the British crossed the water. The rebels know what they're up to. They put 2 lanterns in the Old North Church. 2, if by sea. Paul Revere, Robert Dawes, and the rest of the riders head up to Lexington and Concord, alerting the countryside. The redcoats are coming. John Hancock, Sam Adams bust a move down to Philly for the Second Continental Congress. They re-hide the weapons. 5 in the morning, the British troops show up, 700 of them. They're confronted on the Lexington Green by 100 rebels. And that is where the shot heard round the world was fired. Check, please. Thank you. The shot heard round the world was the first shot of the American Revolution, and why they said it was heard round the world is because the news traveled very quickly, as Boston was a maritime community. So the boats left and they went around the world. They spread the news that the battle between England and the colonies was on. And that was the battle at Lexington Green, the shot heard around the world. Then the British chased the rebels up to Concord. When they got to Concord, they were confronted by 2,000 rebel troops. That was more than they could handle. So the British turned and hustled all the way back to Boston. As a matter of fact, the whole way back to Boston, they were fired upon from the side of the road by the Patriots. They thought that was cheating. And that is the first time the Patriots were ever accused of cheating, ladies and gentlemen. Imagine. But certainly not the last time, right? So when the British finally made it back to Boston, they were trapped on Boston, and that is known as the Siege of Boston. So that is a very brief telling of the Battle of Lexington and Concord, which led to the shot heard around the world, which led to the Siege of Boston. What have we got? Nice place to crash, huh? Let's wake them up. Check, please. What's up, guys? Check out that Verizon building. That's where you go when you got to make a really big call. All right, so you may be wondering, why is this a duck vehicle? The letter D is the fourth letter in the alphabet. These ducks were designed in 1942, the fourth year of World War II. Uh-oh, we ran out of gas. Only kidding, folks. So the letter D. The letter U, utility. It's a utility vehicle, carried troops, ammunition, weapons. The letter K refers to front-wheel drive, and that is what our captain just did. Put us in front-wheel drive. That'll take us out of the water. W refers to rear wheel double axle. DUKW, it's an acronym known as a duck. Out your left, let's give him a quack quack. Check, please. Hey, everybody. Look in the mirror, you'll see how impressed you are. So that is why these are known as duck vehicles, DUKW, World War II and in Korea. This process is known as waddling. Our captain will waddle us right out of the water. I'll shut off the radio. She'll disengage the front wheel drive, disengage the propeller. We are no longer a vessel. We are once again a vehicle. Let's hear it for our captain, everybody! Check, please. I think a kid on a skateboard just tripped when he heard all that noise. Yep, there he is. So, do we have any U.S. military or U.S. veterans on board? We got a veteran here. Any others? When we get back to where we began our tour today, I would like you to sign. Check, please. Check, please. I would like you to sign the roof. We have all our veterans and our current military sign the roof. So when we get back to where we began, you could take your time. You could be the last people to disembark. You can go ahead and sign the roof. Those of you with a camera could take a picture, and I'm certain you'll quack at least once. Check, please. I think you're going for the record, most quacks in one tour, ladies and gentlemen. Those things will be broken by the time you're done. So that is a brief telling, folks, of the Battle of Lexington and Concord, which led to the Siege of Boston. Now, the Siege of Boston, that is when the British, having been chased all the way back to Boston, were trapped on Boston by the rebels. The rebels had them surrounded by water and by land. Now, the English knew, after the events at Lexington and Concord, that the revolution was getting ready to kick off. Now again, they did not want the rebels to have the weapons. Too bad. Our spy network told the rebels 2 months earlier, April 18th, 1775, hide the weapons. Those weapons will come in handy at the Battle of Bunker Hill. So on the night of June, or on the day of June 17th, 1776, 1775, the British were going to cross the water to Charlestown. They wanted to cross the water to Charlestown so they could take Bunker Hill. That would be the high ground. If they could take the high ground, they could then march into Cambridge. Once they got to Cambridge, they could go to the rebel headquarters and they could end the revolution before it even began. But once again, the rebels had a spy network, so we knew the English were going to cross the water to Charlestown. So we went over the night of June 16, 1775, and they actually fortified the hill overnight. And here on your left, you'll see the Bunker Hill Monument, and that is where the battle fought. They came under the trees, over the trees, and you're going to see it again underneath the bridge. So on the night of June 16th, 1775, the rebels go over to Bunker Hill. They actually fortify the hill overnight. It's such a surprise to the English. When they get up the next morning, they bust out their telescope. Whoa, they can't believe what they saw. How did they do that overnight? It was so surprising to the English that an English general actually said, those rebels did in one night what our men cannot do in 3 months. They managed to fortify Bunker Hill. So the English get up the next day, June 17, 1775. They cross the water. The first thing they do when they get to Charlestown, they burn down all the wooden structures, the whole town of Charlestown. They burn it to the ground. Secondly, they try to take the hill, not once, but twice. Both times they get turned back. The third time they try to take the hill, they're more successful because the rebels ran out of ammunition. Now that is ammunition that they would not have had, or weapons for that matter, to defend Bunker Hill had not 2 months earlier, Paul Revere and the rest of the riders went up and told them to hide the weapons. So history is a pretty interesting thing, right? And some of it's true. Check, Liz. So that is the Battle of Bunker Hill. On the morning of June 17, 1775, they crossed the water, try to take the hill twice. Third time they try to take it, they succeed. Here on the left, that's the last tenement building, for those of you who missed it. Yep. Greatest neighborhood this side of heaven. Now the third time they tried to take the hill, they eventually took it. But it was known as a Pyrrhic victory for the English. The English took the hill, but they suffered great casualties. They suffered over 1,100 casualties to just over 400 for the Patriots. Imagine that. Now what was even more detrimental to the English cause was the fact that of all the officers they lost in 7 years of the Revolution, 1/3 of those officers were killed in one day at the Battle of Bunker Hill. So that was a costly victory for the English. It was a moral victory for the rebels. It gave us a sense that we could win the revolution. And guess what? We did win the revolution, which is a good thing. You know why? Otherwise, I'd be speaking English right now instead of Boston. Imagine. So that is a very brief retelling of the Battle of Bunker Hill. Now, guess what? I told you, when the British went over, what did they do? They burned down the neighborhood of Charlestown. What did the people of Charlestown, keep in mind they are Irish, ladies and gentlemen, what did the people of Charlestown do? The first thing they rebuilt was the tavern, ladies and gentlemen. That's correct. And guess what? That tavern is still there to this day. It is known as the Warren Tavern. And guess what? George Washington not only slept there, but he actually slept it off there, because it was a tavern after all, ladies and gentlemen. And if you go to Charlestown at the end of the Freedom Trail, now the Freedom Trail is 2.5 miles from the Boston Common to Charlestown. It winds its way through 16 sites of history here in Boston. When you get to the end, you can visit the Bunker Hill Monument, you can see the USS Constitution, and then you can go ahead and hit the Warren Tavern. Let's blast this guy with a quack quack. Check, please. They had no reply, ladies and gentlemen. We left them speechless. We left them quackless, ladies and gentlemen. This is my writer right here. She writes all my jokes. We got that. Let's hear it for her. What's your name? Audrey. Let's hear it for Audrey. Check, please. I'm starting to be lactose intolerant. Never. So does anybody have any questions? Does anybody have any comments? Not in this building on the left, that is the Charles F. Hurley building. That is known as Breton Brut or raw concrete. It's a type of art. She asked about the building on our left. It is known as brutalism. That is the type of architecture. And it is meant to look rough like that as it does. That is the Charles F. Hurley building. That was featured in the movie The Departed with Jack Nicholson. Anybody see the movie The Departed? He played an Irish criminal. I don't know why there's so many movies in Boston about Irish criminals. Check, please. Now here on your left-hand side, this is where Alexander Graham Bell inadvertently invented the telephone. He was trying to invent technology that would allow his mother, his wife, and other people that were hard of hearing hear better. But he inadvertently invented the telephone. And I think that was a pretty good call. You know? And you know what he said? The first call he made to his buddy in the next room? He said, "Hey, Watson, come here and bring me a cold beer." That's exactly what he said. Here on the right is the John Fitzgerald Kennedy Federal Building. That is home to the DEA, the CIA, the FBI. OMG, it wasn't me. Yep, they all work here at the Federal Building, John Fitzgerald Kennedy Federal Building. And if we were to continue straight, that would bring us into Boston's Little Italy, known as the North End. That is home to Paul Revere House. You can visit Paul Revere's house, but he is not home. He's down the Cape. And that is also where you'll find the Old North Church. That is where Paul Revere had his friend, the sexton at the church, whose name was Robert Newman, put the lanterns in the steeple. As a matter of fact, when Paul Revere went to the church and he saw his friend, the sexton, you know what he said? "Hello, Newman." You know what Newman said? "Hello, Paulie." Coming up on our left-hand side is the New England Holocaust Memorial. There are 6 glass towers. Each tower has over 1 million numbers etched in the glass. That is to memorialize the more than 6.5 million Jewish people that perished during World War II. So that is the New England Holocaust Memorial. Behind it, you see the Bell in Hand Tavern, established more or less on that site, 1795. If you look on the left here, that is the Ye Old Union Oyster House. That restaurant was opened on that site, right there in that building in 1826. And it is still continuously run to this day. That is the oldest continuously operated restaurant in the country. That is the Ye Old Union Oyster House. John F. Kennedy kept a table just to the left of Hennessy's. So if you see Hennessy's and you look to your left, you'll see the Ye Old Union Oyster House. Built and opened in 1826. John F. Kennedy kept a table there, and that is where he proposed to Jacqueline Bouvier, and she said yes. Because he had proposed to Jackie Bouvier in D.C. some months earlier, but she had said no. So the second time at the Union Oyster House, he proposed, she said yes. The rest is history, ladies and gentlemen. Here on your left where the crowd is gathering, that is the Faneuil Hall building built on land donated to the city by Peter Faneuil, 1742. Just behind that beautiful Faneuil Hall building is the Quincy Market, known for its food court and for its souvenir shopping and for some entertaining as well. They got magicians, acrobats, all kinds of good things taking place. And if you see this statue right here, check out the statue, that's Sam Adams. Now check out Sammy, he's in the old gangster lean. Now why is Sam Adams standing like this? Because he had just gone up to the office of the governor, right here in this building, the old State House, demanding that the British troops leave Boston after the Boston Massacre, March 5th, 1770. The Boston Massacre took place right there. See that balcony? From that balcony is where the Declaration of Independence was read for the very first time here in Boston. July 18, 1776. So that was the old State House, built in 1713. That is where the Declaration of Independence was read for the first time, July 18, 1776. And in front of that building is where the Boston Massacre took place. The English referred to it as the unfortunate incident on King Street, but the rebels referred to it as the Boston Massacre because we wanted to utilize it as a means of propaganda to get the revolution underway. Anybody ever take this tour? It's a lot faster. Here on the right-hand side, that is the biggest piece of the world's biggest Monopoly game. Actually, that is known as a pictograph. That tea kettle has been there since the mid-1800s. Whether you could read or speak the language, you knew you could get a cup of tea right there. That is known as a pictograph. Here on your left is the oldest burial ground, King's Chapel Burial Ground. John Winthrop is buried there. In this beautiful church is the biggest bell ever crafted by Paul Revere, King's Chapel Church. Here on your left is the oldest hotel in America, Omni Parker House, and that's where they created the Boston cream pie. Very tasty. Tremont Temple Baptist Church, that is the oldest integrated church in the country. Here on the right is the most famous burial ground. Right there where that gentleman in the blue shirt is, that's Sam Adams. To the right of Sam Adams is Robert Treat Paine. To the far left corner is John Hancock. 3 signatories of the Declaration of Independence are buried there. The 5 victims of the Boston Massacre, buried there. That big obelisk in the middle that says Franklin, that is Ben Franklin's parents. Behind Ben Franklin's parents is Paul Revere, his 2 wives, and 14 of his kids. Yep. To the far left corner, that is John Hancock, the financier of the Revolution. And we're going to pass over here on your right. You'll see a small stone with the green plaque. That is James Otis. James Otis famously said, "Taxation without representation is tyranny." So that is the Granary Burial Ground, the most famous burial ground in Boston. People literally dying to get in. Park Street Church, that is where William Lloyd Garrison spoke out against slavery for the first time at that church, July 4th of 1829. Here on your right is the oldest subway stop in America. That is the Park Street Station. That is the oldest subway system in the country. So you got Park Street there. At the other end of the park is Boylston Street. Now that subway system was built in 1895. And on that day that it opened, over 100,000 people rode the subway that day. And guess what? Half of them are still down there waiting for a train. Don't tell the T I said so. Here on your right hand side is the Boston Common. This is where the Freedom Trail begins. Go Celtics! That is where the Freedom Trail begins. As a matter of fact, you can see the brick on the sidewalk. You follow the bricks, it'll lead you to Charlestown. That's where you'll find the Constitution Bunker Hill. Here on your right hand side, that memorial is known as the Embrace. That depicts the embrace that Martin Luther King gave his wife Coretta Scott King once he learned he had won the Nobel Peace Prize. Martin Luther King spoke here on the Boston Common in 1965. Just 1 block to our left is Chinatown. That is the 4th largest Chinatown in the country. You have New York, San Francisco, Honolulu, Boston. And here on your right is Boylston Street. That's the 2nd stop on the subway. And if you look to your left, you'll see a tree on the side of that brick building, emblazoned. That is the Liberty Tree, to the left of the actual tree. Now that is where the Liberty Tree was. The Liberty Tree was a tree, this was a countryside more or less. You remember the Blackstone Block where Ye Old Union Oyster House was? That was the commercial area. Where we are now would have been like countryside. So there was a tree back there and it was known as the Liberty Tree. That is where the rebels could meet and talk about a revolution without being overheard by the English. So it was a discreet place to discuss a revolution. Let's matter of fact, I believe John Lennon wrote the famous words. You say you want a revolution. Right there. That is not true, ladies and gentlemen. So here we are on the campus of Emerson College. Anybody hear of Emerson College? Emerson College is famous if you want to get in the entertainment industry. A lot of comedians, Jay Leno, Dennis Leary, or if you want to get in the production business. As a matter of fact, some of you may remember Henry Winkler. Henry Winkler played the Fonz in Happy Days. Henry Winkler went to this school, and when he did, he got all A's and 1 B, ladies and gentlemen. That is a limited appeal, that joke there. Most people don't know what Fonz is. By way of description, there was a television show on many years ago called Happy Days, set in the 1950s. One of the characters was known as Fonzie. Fonzie was really cool. He wore a leather jacket, rode a motorcycle. And his catchphrase was, "Hey!" If something was cool, Fonzie said, "Hey!" And when he went here to school, he got all A's and 1 B. Yeah, he got in trouble for the 1 B. I believe he got grounded, actually. So we are currently in Boston's Theater District. Again, 1 block to our left is Chinatown. Here in Boston's Theater District, at one time there were over 50 theaters. Currently there's only 13, but it's still a very impressive theater district because any play on its way to Broadway in New York will go through Boston. If they can entertain the Boston crowd, then they know they're ready for Boston, because Boston is said to have a very discerning theater crowd. Now check this out. I've been trying to entertain a Boston crowd for almost 20 years. Hasn't happened yet. Maybe today will be the first time. What do you say, folks? Check, please. Thank you. Now here on your right is somewhere I hit just about every day. Yeah? It's not how hard you hit though, it's how high you bounce, right? Life is about persistence, ladies and gentlemen. Now here on your left-hand side, that's the New England Law of Boston. Do we have any lawyers on board today? Do we have any history majors? Oh, even better. Because I'm a history bluff, not a history buff. But when it comes to information, I am full of it. So that is New England Law Boston. That was founded in 1908. Now check this out. In 1908, only women could attend school here. But they eventually let men in. And when they did, the grade point average plummeted. I'm only kidding, it didn't plummet. Check, please! It did not plummet, it actually sunk like a stone. There is a difference. Now, originally that law school was known as the Portia Law School. Portia was a character in The Merchant of Venice, a play written by Shakespeare. Now, in that play, a woman who wanted to argue before the court had to dress like a man to argue before the court, because women could not. Now, when William Shakespeare put that play on the stage, women could not act upon the stage. So Shakespeare had to get a man playing a woman, dressing as a man, to argue before the court. He knew that she knew that he knew. That was cuckoo, ladies and gentlemen. Check, please. The Lions Group. If you look up to the end of that brick building, slightly to the left, you'll see a statue of Edgar Allan Poe. Can you check it out? The little green statue just behind the tree there. Edgar Allan Poe was born here in Boston in 1809. Edgar Allan Poe wrote a poem that people are still raving about to this day. Now, I haven't heard any hecklers yet. Do we have any hecklers on board? No, that's good. Because here on your left is the Park Plaza Hotel, originally known as the Statler Hotel. Mr. Statler, the owner, had a friend named Mr. Waldorf who owned the Waldorf Hotel. Now, they were friendly rivals. One night they're in a restaurant bickering back and forth. Jim Henson, the creator of the Muppets, he sees them. He says, "Could I use your likeness to create a couple Muppets?" Those Mr. Statler and Mr. Waldorf say yes. They take their likeness, and Jim Henson creates two Muppets known as the hecklers in the balcony. Pretty good, right? No one wants to heckle me, huh? All right, I'll heckle you then. Check, please. Now, when we go through the intersection, if you look right, you're going to see that beautiful Arlington Street Church again. That again is the first church in the Back Bay, built in 1861, home to 16 Tiffany opalescent stained glass windows, all with one theme. That theme is the life of Jesus, and that church is open to the public. So if anybody wants to visit any of the churches we mentioned today, you can visit them. Now picture that Arlington Street Church with nothing around it. There are pictures of that church sitting as though it's the only building for miles. And that was the Arlington Street Church. First church in the Back Bay, 1861. What we're traveling on now at one time was known as Insurance Way. This is where a lot of the big insurance companies such as Liberty Mutual and John Hancock had their offices. As a matter of fact, the tallest building in Boston, the one we pointed at from the river, was known as the John Hancock Tower up until very recently. Now it is simply known as 200 Clarendon Street. John Hancock pulled their offices out. So as we go up the street here on the right is the Trinity Church, 1877. Richardsonian, Romanesque, architectural style. Yep, you got the Trinity Church here on your right-hand side. Here on your left is the John Hancock Tower, and if you look in the windows, you recognize anybody? Check, please. That was us. Somebody should have told me my tie was crooked. So behind us again is the beautiful Trinity Church, 1877. Across the park here, to your right, you'll see it shortly. That is the oldest congregation in Boston. It was founded, the congregation was, in 1669. That building, however, was built in 1875. That is the Old South Church. So you can visit the Trinity Church, you can visit the Old South Church, you can visit the Church of the Covenant, the Church of the Advent, you can visit the Old North Church, any one you like. Here again on your right is the beautiful Boston Public Library, built in 1897. This portion of it was designed by Charles McKim. And again, it's the oldest public lending library in the country. As a matter of fact, you see all the names on the sides? See the names? Those people need to return a book. All right, ladies and gentlemen, guess who's back? Back again. Not Slim Shady, ladies and gentlemen, but VIP here, the legendary Maitre D'. Now we do have our military on board. Don't forget you can sign the roof, okay? Was there any other military or veterans on board or just one? So we're almost at the end of our tour, ladies and gentlemen. When we do park the vehicle at the Prudential Center, allow Captain Sarah and I to exit first. I will drop the ladder. You can all come down the ladder. Please be careful. It could be wet and therefore slippery. Take a look around your area so you do not leave anything on board. If you forget something on board, simply go to eBay and I will sell it back to you. Free shipping, ladies and gentlemen. So I hope you folks had a good time. Let's hear it for our captain. Let's hear it for yourselves, even more important. Let's hear it for you guys, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. And let's blaze away with one more quack quack check, please. Man. We may have to do that one more time just to let everybody know. So again, remain seated till we exit first. Check your areas. And let's blast it away one more time. Check, please. You guys are great. VIP here does accept gratuities for a job well done, whether cash or Venmo. Thank you very much, everybody. Please remain seated till we exit first. And one more time for everybody on board. Why not? You guys were fabulous. Thank you. Grazie, everybody. Grazie. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.